Welcome to the GLAMMONS MOOC. The GLAMMONS project is a European collaboration dedicated to reimagining galleries, libraries, archives, and museums as commons-oriented institutions. This course explores how GLAM institutions can operate as cultural commons. We'll examine how these institutions are transforming from traditional, hierarchical models to inclusive, participatory platforms of shared cultural stewardship. In this very first module, Conceptualizing GLAMs as Commons, we explore how GLAMs, galleries, libraries, archives and museums, can be organized as commons, to enhance their resilience and social relevance, through community engagement and participation. Through hands-on examples, we examine how commoning applies to GLAMs in terms of shared use and stewardship of cultural and cultural heritage resources, participatory and democratic governance, and its emphasis on care for commoners and the wider community. In doing so, we will conceptualize commons-oriented GLAMs as an analytical lens to rethink cultural organizations as spaces for collective cultural production and heritage making. Across Europe, GLAMs face increasing challenges and pressures to engage with diverse audiences and demonstrate their social relevance. The past decades have marked a shift of GLAMs in the cultural sector from the experience paradigm to the participatory one in a social turn of the heritage agenda. Reference soft law instruments, such as the Florence Convention in 2000 and the Faro Convention in 2005, highlighted cultural participation and cooperation as a right, laying the ground for conceptualizing more inclusive, bottom-up management approaches in the sector. Towards this direction, commons theory and practice can help us unlock alternative models for county production and co-governance. Commons-oriented GLAMs move beyond top-down structures by embracing shared stewardship, decision-making and production of knowledge. Commons-oriented practices are already present across the sector. Think of community museums and libraries, oral history projects and archives, artist-run spaces and civic takeovers of underused public cultural infrastructure. These efforts often emerge at the grassroots level, and they may not always call themselves commons, but they embody many of the same principles. They are led by volunteers or informal autonomous networks, experimenting with creative reuse of resources and democratic governance. To better understand the mechanics of commoning in practice, let's look into some real-world examples of commons-oriented projects from across Europe. In rural Spain, the Eco-Museum of Santo Adriano provides an interesting example of making heritage from below. The museum was founded by local residents and archaeologists, without state funding. Rather, it emerged from the ground up, organized around working groups and assemblies to enable the direct participation of local people deciding how to take care of their heritage, including the prehistoric sites and pre-Romanesque churches that have been closed to the public. The commoners managed to develop some basic infrastructure to support their activity, including a visitor center to host public events, workshops, exhibitions and a library, relying solely on self-generated revenue and community labor. This initiative shows how communities can reactive, dormant, heritage and build cultural infrastructure in underserved areas. Since 2011, oral history groups have formed a wide citizens network across Greece, dedicated to documenting collective memory. Operating through open porous teams of volunteers, oral history groups use shared tools and methods to collect and document the stories of ordinary people, exercising active citizenship. Each team is autonomous, but part of a wider network with shared rules and training. Governance is horizontal. All members are equal and co-make decisions through a steering committee, organizing their work and resources without institutional support or subsidies. Oral history groups show how self-organized knowledge production can function as a commons, balancing autonomy with mutual support. In the 2010s, national policy in the UK introduced a scheme of local authority heritage assets transfer, such as historic buildings, monuments, sites and GLAMs, to local communities. This strategy hands over ownership and management control of cultural spaces to community organizations. Applied examples include the Battersea Arts Centre and Brunel Museum in London, Jesmond Library in Newcastle and others. The scheme has led to projects that present many features of commons management, assigned with the task to marry up community needs with financially viable uses, sustained through partnerships and a funding mix of grants, donations and community shares. Overall, these examples demonstrate practices that reflect a shift from centralized institutions to networked, plural models rooted in local and collective agency. As we observe, commons-oriented cultural projects and GLAMs often share key characteristics regarding community-based ownership, in the form of non-profit entities, such as charities or cooperatives, open participation, through democratic governance structures, such as assemblies and steering committees, reliance on alternative modes of labor, such as volunteerism and reciprocity, financing through self-generated income, community shares and donations, and co-created content and knowledge that is open, accessible and shareable. Therefore, to understand and study GLAMs as commons, we can focus on three interconnected principles: governance, namely, the existence of horizontal, democratic and inclusive structures for decision-making and daily management, through direct participation or representation. Autonomy, namely, a capacity to act independently or have limited dependencies on external state and market actors, sustained through self-financing and own labor. Accessibility, namely, the delivery of social benefits to commoners and the broader public, through modes of sharing and distribution of outputs and co-created knowledge. These are intercommunicating and relational practices that are mutually reinforced through their interactions. In closing, we need to highlight that commons-oriented GLAMs make up a new and emerging field that offer compelling answers to critical challenges in the sector. Commoning practices can help promoting and enhancing co-creation over passive consumption, cultural democracy over elitist institutions and heritage, and community care over market logic. It is also important to acknowledge that commons is not a fixed model but a dynamic practice, a new framework for pursuing novel, socially embedded and collaborative forms of engaging with the work of GLAMs. As such, commons deserve our attention and study. Thank you for joining us in this course on cultural commons and the future of GLAMs. Learn more exploring our other resources like the GLAMMONS podcast and visit our website. You can also follow us on our social media channels for the project updates, case studies, and opportunities to engage.